Hello, Hare Krishna. I'm happy to be with you all, and we're going to have a Bhagavad Gita class. Okay, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Thank you.
You're not very loud for me.
Okay.
My volume is fully on and I hear you, but not very loud.
Could I speak louder like this? Is that better?
It is better, yeah. Thank you.
I think I was speaking quietly, and my microphone, I have a new webcam and the microphone's further away. So I'll speak louder. Okay, I'm just forgetting the order of things. So now I'm going to read the first. We're going to be studying Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 70. Devin, would you want to do call and response? If not, I'll just go through the Sanskrit.
No, yeah, just no.
Okay. Okay.
I will do the call and response.
Okay, you have chapter 2, text 70?
Yeah.
Okay. Puryamanam achala pratishtam
Puryamanam achala pratistam
samudram apa pravishanti yadvat
samudram apa pravishanti yadvat
tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve
tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve
sa shantim apnoti na kama kami.
Sashantim apnoti na kamakami.
Thank you. Would anyone like to do the verse? I think that
I can. Apuryamanam achala pratistam
apuryamanam achala pritashtam
samudramapa pravishanti yadvat
samudram apa pravishanti yadvat
tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve
tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve
sashanti apnoti na kamakami.
sa shantim apnoti na kama kami. Welcome, Lakshmi Priya. Lakshmi Priya. So now we'll do the word for word. Apuryamanam,
Apuryamanam,
always filled.
always filled.
Achala pratishtam,
Achala pratistam,
steadily situated.
steadily situated.
Samudram,
Samudram,
the ocean.
the ocean.
Apa,
Apa,
water.
water.
Pravishanti,
Pravishanti,
enter.
enter.
Yadvat,
Yadvat,
as.
as.
Tadvat,
Tadvat,
so.
so.
Kama,
Kama,
desires.
desires.
Yam,
Yam,
unto one.
unto one.
Pravishanti,
Pravishanti,
enter.
enter.
Sarve,
Sarve,
all.
all.
Sa,
Sa,
that person.
that person.
Shantim,
Shantim,
peace.
peace.
Apnoti,
Apnoti,
achieves.
achieves.
Na,
Not,
not.
not.
Kama kami,
Kamakami,
one who desires to fulfill desires.
one who desire to fulfill desires.
Translation. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially, okay, let me start over. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water. But the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities and he is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious man, one who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification. Although the desires are present, okay. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, who fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. The fruit of workers, the salvationists, and the yogis, also the yogis, who are after mystic powers, are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord, and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desires, and therefore they are in perfect peace. Now I'll say, I don't know if I'm doing this in order, but now I'm going to say a prayer to Srila Prabhupada to ask for his support that hopefully I can. I'm feeling a little distracted. I'm going to pull out the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Srinivadi Pashtata Deshatarine. So this verse reads Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 text 70. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Hare Krishna, how's my sound? Can you hear me?
I hear you, but not loud.
Okay. I don't know what to do.
I hear you enough.
Enough. Okay. I'm not sure what I can do right now. So I'll just continue and I'll try to speak louder.
You're very loud for me. Like as loud or louder than any normal class. That's my
Oh.
experience.
Because I hear you in and out for myself, but I hear Devin. Devin was loud for me.
Oh, well, hey. Okay, I'll just speak it in a good tone. Let me know if you don't hear me, if you have a problem. So Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for coming to my class, which I remembered until yesterday. And then I remembered in enough time to prepare for the class. So, and I was inspired to talk about happiness in Krishna consciousness. So I looked up the word happy. I did a search on prabhupabooks.com for the word happy, and I was looking for a verse that I wanted, to speak about from Bhagavad Gita. And I really like this one. It's poetic, and it's just, I like the verse and the purport and the imagery of the ocean. And at the end, towards the end, there is the word happy. It says, but the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord, and he has no desires to be fulfilled. And I pulled out other quotes, mostly from Bhagavad Gita, about happiness. The word I looked up the word happy, so I picked out everything with this word happy in Krishna consciousness. There are places in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna and Prabhupada, they speak about happiness and distress, material happiness. And so for this class, we're just talking about spiritual happiness, true spiritual happiness. And we're also going to, I like where this has taken me, and will take us into looking at like sense gratification and some austerities from sense gratification, because if we're we can't really be Krishna conscious if we're entangled in material attachments and material gratification. It's like they don't go together. So, and there's even a verse. Let's see if I can find it right now. There's a verse. Oh, I don't know. Sorry, I don't think I have it. Okay, but I don't know where it is. I don't want to go too deep into it, but I did read today. Prabhupada said, either I think in a purport or a lecture, that like even engaging in one material sense gratification that has nothing to do with Krishna can really knock us off the path of transcendence. So I think it's important to talk about sense gratification, because it's like the opposite of God consciousness, serving God, devotion to Krishna. So this is great. I'm excited. And this is this is exactly where kind of actually related to what's happening personally for me. So it's great. I recently had a flood of desires. I think I already had them, but I acknowledged them. So they kind of like all came to the surface, and I finally took a look at, like, being honest, like this is all of my material desires. Not all of them, but this was like a chunk of things that had to do with money and financing. Could I get them or not? And just and more that not had to do with money. But I was like experiencing, at least I was being honest, but also was experiencing frustration for like a couple of weeks. Like, I want to know and move on, kind of this angry kind of frustration. And I was noticing, I felt like I was in the mode of passion. And anyway, I'll just share it. Actually, I was planning on sharing this later, but I'll go ahead and finish sharing the story because it's here. And then I'm going to go into quotes and verses and some philosophy. So thank you for your patience with me. This is what led me to the class. So I was experiencing that flood of desire and frustration and motive passion. And finally, like it all sort of culminated. I'm not really going to go into the details of what all of that was, but the other day, this week, so I had like a breakthrough, and the other day I finally like softened up with that frustration and that like anger and irritation, and I experienced my experience, and underneath that was an experience of sadness and fear, and I felt fearful for the future, and then I grieved the loss of what could have been in the past, and well, not without going into it. And by doing that, I had like this realization, and I made one move that it made me more Christian by pausing with the motor passion and the flood of desires. I experienced my experience, and just by doing that and releasing a little bit of emotion, some grieving, I became Krishna conscious again. And I had a moment of surrender, and I made a choice with that, and I started to feel happiness. Like, this is actually how I want to live. I want to live in a state of surrender and taking risks and Krishna consciousness, and like happiness all came back to me. I felt devotional again. So that actually made me the other day look up the word. Garuda and I, we will not every morning, but sometimes we read Bhagavad Gita together in the morning. It's somewhat regular. And so we were thinking of what topics, and I felt so happy that day. So I looked up the word happiness in the back, and there's like, 30 index items in the back of the Bhagavad Gita about happiness. So that was fun. And so I just stayed with that topic today, and there were so many options of where to go. One thing I really liked that wasn't a verse, this wasn't a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, but it was from the introduction. I really like this one section where Prabhupada like packed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He packed in like 7 happies in this like 2 paragraphs in the introduction. So I'll read this to you. Factually, we are related to the Supreme Lord in service. The Supreme Lord is the supreme enjoyer, and we, living entities, are his servitors. We are created for his enjoyment, and if we participate in that eternal enjoyment with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we become happy. We cannot become happy otherwise. It is not possible to be happy independently, just as no part of the body can be happy without cooperation with the stomach. It is not possible for the living entity to be happy without rendering transcendental loving service unto the Supreme Lord. When we mention the name Krishna, we do not refer to any sectarian name. Krishna means the highest pleasure, and it is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is a reservoir and storehouse of all pleasure. We are all hankering after pleasure. Anandamayo Vyasat. That's from, I think, Vedanta Sutra 1:12. The living entities, like the Lord, are full of consciousness, and they are after happiness. The Lord is perpetually happy, and if the living entities associate with the Lord, cooperate with him, and take part in his association, then they also become happy. I'm interested in being happy, and I would like true happiness, not so much a facade of happiness that's temporary. Even though I'm acting like that and I'm conditioned like that, and I get into illusion, and I'm not out of illusion yet. Still, this makes sense to me. I would like to be happy. I would like to be aligned with my soul. Like, there's a soul inside that is happy. And that's something that I've been meditating on. Like, my soul's completely content, completely peaceful, completely devotional, completely ready to surrender, even maybe surrendering right now to the fact that there's this mind and false ego covering it, like, hey, no big deal. Like, I can imagine the soul just being like inside of me and inside of each of us, just like beaming and like brilliant and just like, it's struggling to experience the joy if we're entangling it in temporary gratifications. But anyway, this decides that we're doing that. We don't even have to be sad about that. Like, we can still be happy that we have the opportunity to go back to Krishna consciousness and go back to our natural state and who we really are. So I think this is like, sometimes I feel like that's my natural state. Like, when I had this breakthrough recently, I was just like, I don't ever want to go back to being in illusion and frustrated. And really a lot of it was like, not like the reason I ever got frustrated in the first place, that whole wave of desires coming, is because I was in the mode of ignorance. So maybe you've heard this in Sabbatoh seminars or coaching or whatever, but when you are in a prolonged state or any long length, if you go into the mode of ignorance or mode of passion, even mode of goodness, there's karma that comes afterwards. So the karma came back and hit me like a flood of like, no, this is what you truly are and what you truly wanted, even if those things are material. At least there's some truth. Truth would be elevated. It's at least the mode of goodness. So I was in a mode of ignorance for like a very long time, especially with material desires, and it all like really kind of hit me with how much I was truly desiring. And just by being honest about that, like, I can start to be happy again. Like, I don't actually have to have those desires. I know that logically, but like, I'm starting to feel like, yeah, what really matters is Krishna consciousness. But like, just giving it a voice was like a turning point for me. Not that I'm all the way through all of that, but like, I'm feeling like there's space now because I gave space to give it a voice, to look what was underneath it, fear, pain, and then what's even underneath those, like the anger and then like the sadness, like what's under that is like a spirit who really wants to serve Krishna and be joyful no matter what the circumstances are. Which brings me to other quotes I have. Okay, no, that's not what I want to read yet. Sorry. Okay, for one who is so situated in the divine consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such a happy state, one's intelligence soon becomes steady. Unless one is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, and that verse that the last quote I just said was from Bhagavad Gita to verse 65. So just like a few, like 5 verses before where we're reading right now. And this next verse I want to read is, I'm not going to read that. Yeah. I'm excited about this class, everybody, because I want to be happy. So I'm going to do this class. I'm going to bring my happiness to the class. So I'm going to not look at my notes for a minute because I don't have them organized perfectly, like to where the conversation's going. But what did I just read? Okay, so we can situate ourselves in divine consciousness and experience peace and steadiness, even in the middle of being materially conditioned. And the way that we do that is engaging in devotional service. And in fact, I think in one of these, I don't want to spend time looking through my notes, but there's a place here where Prabhupada says in a purport that like, that's the only way to redirect our, desires. Like, we're desiring sense gratification and all different kinds of material gratification. Maybe, it could be subtle gratification, like appreciation and adoration and praise and to be acknowledged and appreciated. desiring all those things, to be heard, to be understood, you know, having like, you know, which, I mean, I know being heard and understood is good, but you know, we're attached to it sometimes. I know I am. I'm attached to being heard and understood, you know, constantly. And so despite the flood of desires, which is what this purport is saying, and I'll read the verse again. Mother Anasuya is here. I'm going to read the verse. It's chapter 2, text 70 in Bhagavad Gita. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. And Prabhupada, in my study today, I'm getting distracted a little bit, but there's somewhere in my study, okay, or in my notes, it exists out there where Prabhupada says that I think he may say the only way to become that person who's not disturbed by that incessant flow of desires is to engage in devotional service. It's probably in the purport. So please forgive me as I am awkward. Okay. I have a good place for us to go. So I'm going to read some of the purport from chapter 17, text 16, and it's about austerities of the mind. I'm not going to read the whole verse, but in the whole purport, which is some of it. So Prabhupada shares in the purport, to make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can be always thinking of doing good for others. The best training for the mind is gravity in thought. One should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. To purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. Satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification, and there is no possibility of the mind's becoming satisfied. Here, okay. The best course to divert the mind to the best course is to divert the mind to the Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories, as in the Puranas and the Mahabharata. One can take advantage of this knowledge and thus become purified. So pure Krishna consciousness is the solution. 100% God consciousness and surrendering your whole life and your desires and your energy and your thoughts and your whole self. When we surrender, this is something when I studied the word happiness earlier this week, there's a part of the index in the back of the Bhagavad Gita that says happiness by surrender. So it's like, that's a process. Like happiness comes after surrendering. And I'm really interested in that. Like, oh, well, I really am interested in happiness. So I guess surrendering is not something that I need to be avoiding or putting off to a later date. It's like, how can I surrender more today? You know, and I even felt that way last night. I thought, okay, I really like this life. I like this feeling of my life the past couple of days. And this is also with my husband, Garuda, like he's experiencing surrender. It's inspiring me to surrender. We're thinking of new like possibilities. And I'm like, this is how I want to live. I want to think of possibilities. And when I live like in that place of possibilities, for like truly being aligned with who we are and Krishna consciousness. And it says my internet is unstable. Are you guys hearing me okay?
Yes, and your internet is unstable, and when it goes low, then it's not as loud, but I can hear everything you said.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, so I got this this state of like possibility and like happiness and Krishna consciousness, and I was like, oh, I really want to keep this going, and like, so all it takes is surrender. Like, okay, well, surrender is in my value system, so like, how can I? All right, well, it works. I like it. It feels good. So, how can I surrender a little bit more each day? And I felt that way for a day. And I did that. I had that thought last night, like just sort of a sincere moment of like, okay, Krishna, like, what could I do for you? And like, and I had like 3 things like fire off in my mind, and those ideas were striking. And it was one by one, like 3 separate things went off in my mind. And I was really impacted by them. And I, when I was finishing up what I was doing, I went to Garuda. He was really tired and not like that available to listen. But I was like, I just had 3 things. I need to like say it before I lose it. And one was a realization, and then one was an idea for like a comedy, like a way to express myself through comedy. And it's really funny, and I can't wait to do it. I don't have time to do it today, but this was last night. And then another one was something I could do as a service. And I was like, oh, I don't want to go into what it was, but it was like a cool service idea. And I have like this past 2 days, I have new service ideas, and also Garuda has new service ideas that feel like Krishna conscious and align with who we are too. And it's like, this is how I want to live. Forget about sense gratification, and so I'm having some transformation over here, and I wanted to share my happiness with you and talk about it. And so let us explore a little more Krishna conscious teachings. Oh, here's the one. Here's what I was looking for. Okay, so this is just 3 verses earlier, same chapter 2, but verse 67. As a boat on the water is swept away by a strong wind, even one of the senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Okay, in the purport, just one sentence from the purport, Prabhupada says, unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. So that's something to consider. And I'm not down to one, I've got like multiple, diversions. So that's, for me, like, oh, what am I doing here? Because like just one can divert, a sincere devotee. So what will happen to me? So lately I am not wanting to waste time. Like there's something about the midlife crisis. There's something about, like 40s. Okay, like looking back to youth and looking forward to old age, and that's where Garuda and I are. And I feel like, I don't know if it's been crisis, you could use that word, but just, it's time to face things and reevaluate. And when I read something like this, and just multiple experiences, and just where I'm at is like, oh, I don't really want to waste time. Like, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to do those lower. I don't want to label it as lower, but just I don't want to waste my time and like distract myself anymore, because it's just not working, and I'm intelligent enough to notice that sometimes. Okay, excuse me. Okay, I like this purport from Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, verse 2. Prabhupada just is like, okay, so he's really like making it so simple and so beautiful. He's painting the picture, okay, of what's possible in Krishna consciousness, like full Krishna consciousness. And I really like how he summarizes it. So he says, the process of devotional service is a very happy one. Why? Devotional service consists of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. So one can simply hear the chanting of the glories of the Lord, or can attend philosophical lectures on transcendental knowledge given by authorized acharyas. Simply by sitting, one can learn. Then one can eat the remnants of the food offered to God, nice, palatable dishes. In every state, devotional service is joyful. One can execute devotional service even in the most poverty-stricken condition. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Palam. He is ready to accept from the devotee any kind of offering, never mind what, even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water, which are all available in every part of the world, can be offered by any person, regardless of social position, and will be accepted if offered with love. There are many instances in history. Simply by tasting the tulasi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages like Sanat Kumara become great devotees. Therefore, the devotional process is very nice and it can be executed in a happy mood. God accepts only the love with which things are offered to him. So I don't know, I highlighted all the places, most of the places where Prabhupada was like, simply by sitting, regardless of this, any kind, no matter what, never mind. Like it was just like simply joyful. And that's really attractive to me. I wish I was more surrendered. At least I could do a little bit every day. And I want to live like that. And I know that this association here wants to live like that too. And so I'm very grateful for your association to bring this out of me, and to support me. And I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for devotee association. And so I have a couple of quotes I can share. I'll pause on reading and I'll say I really like the metaphor and the purport from the first verse that I read about the ocean. I like to just sit with that for a moment together. Like the ocean is already filled with water, and it's being filled with more water by rain and the rivers. And you could explain that in a science way, material science way, but I like the metaphor of yes, there's like a surface there's waves, but basically the ocean is steady. It's not really expanding outside of its brink. Let's not talk about climate change or whatever, but like the ocean's generally just stable and steady and receiving floods of, rain and rivers. And devotees can be like that, just like filled and full in themselves, totally satisfied. And I had a talk recently with Mother Malini, and I listed I didn't even list them all, I just mentioned I'm frustrated. And so she suggested to cultivate some satisfaction. And so I mentioned some things in here about just being satisfied. And that's an austerity of the mind, is just being satisfied. And so I like that idea of just being so filled with satisfaction, joy, devotional service, and you can still experience incessant desires. It's interesting. So it's they're there, like flows of desires, and it really courses through me. This is really speaking to me right now. I have like a large, list of things I want that are big, and they're kind of in the front. And then there's a long list of small things that I want, like a better sponge in the sink and a better dish rack, and I would like clothing, and I would like to afford this expensive professional haircuts regularly, and I would like another couple pairs of shoes, and just I would like different bedding, I would like a different car, I would like it just goes on and on, like how much more I could see the room for improvement. Our fridge broke, blah blah. It's it's just those are big things, but there's even small things. So it's incessant. I can just see how life could be improved. I'm just it's just going through me. And then there's possibilities. My mind does like possibilities, but it can also, if I'm thinking in a Krishna conscious way, or even just mode of goodness, like honoring truth and honoring the absolute truth, like those types of realms of possibility, then I'm much more happy and more grounded. But if I'm thinking of like possibilities for how everything that's wrong could be improved, and I'm really suffering because it's just like this endless. There's endless, I mean, like there's like scuffs on the walls and there's splattered food in the back of the kitchen wall. Like, they're just like, it's just like, I'm just speaking about the house and stuff, but even in the world, like I could look around and just like, oh, I desire for the children of the world to be, listened to in a nice way, or I desire, I wish my dad realized something, or, oh, like, I wish we weren't hurting mother, or like, it's just like, there's a lot to wish for, and at the same time, not all of that's my business, and it's not essential. It's not essential to my service and what I need to be doing day to day, like what's right in front of me. So I can access satisfaction and steadiness and even a sense of peace. In the text, there's like Shanti is like 3 times in the, or 3 times, maybe 3 times. There's this word Prabhi Shanti, and it kept saying enter. So maybe that's not Shanti, but anyway, Shantim was there. Shantim. So that's somewhat what this verse is about, is being undisturbed and experiencing peace and experiencing Krishna consciousness and service to the Lord, no matter what's going on around us. And that is greatly helped by curbing sense gratification. Even just contemplating, like even just using our mind to contemplate sense gratification, it's like it's an austerity of the mind to just be simple and satisfied despite the flow that's happening, but not letting the mind go there and ruminate on all the possibilities of desires being satisfied. So I'm going to read one last verse in my notes. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 19. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. I don't know. That's how I ended the class, I guess. So, yeah. So that's just simple about the modes of goodness, the modes of material nature. And I don't know if that's how I want to end the class, right? Just saying that. Okay, I'll go back. I'll go up to one more quote from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 23. This is the purport of just a part of the purport. The Lord, therefore, is always giving instruction from within and without. From without, he gives instructions as stated in Bhagavad Gita, and from within, he tries to convince him, speaking of the individual soul, that his activities in the material field are not conducive to real happiness. This is a quote. Prabhupada's like paraphrasing Krishna. He says, just give it up and turn your faith toward me. Then you will be happy. He says, that's it in the quote, he says. Thus, the intelligent person who places his faith in the Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, begins to advance toward a blissful, eternal life of knowledge. So just give it up and turn your faith toward me, then you'll be happy. So that is a class about happiness and how about being undisturbed and being satisfied and curbing sense gratification and focusing on Krishna consciousness. So Hare Krishna, thank you. I'll read the text one more time, even though I did read it twice. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Thank you all. Hare Krishna, would anyone like to share any thoughts or responses to my class? I would love to hear anything at all from you. Questions? Oh, you're muted. Or I thought maybe you spoke. Mother Moni.
Hi, Krishna. Damayanti Prabhu.
Hi,
I
Krishna.
was speaking of your class, and often Prabhupada said, how can there be happiness if there is no peace?
Uh-huh.
Or, the incessant flow of like, I want that, I need that, I need to change that. It's not peaceful.
Yeah.
So I think your class is exemplifying what Prabhupada says. Like, if I'm always like torn by this so many desire to make things better, then it's hard to be peaceful. And how can there be happiness if there is no peace?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I appreciated your class, and also Kamakami. Kamakami is like the two last words of that verse. And the Kamakami sound like kamikaze, kamikaze. Like it's Japanese, in the Japanese army in World War II. There was Japanese armies, they were trained, like now it's kind of common because a lot of extremists, radical, terrorists, they do that, they kill themselves. By the time it was kind of new. And the kamikazes, they were kind of trained to attack another plane by just going into the plane, and then the pilot knew that he was killing himself by doing that because he was supporting his country. So to give to the incessant flow of desire is like that. It's kamikaze.
Yeah.
It's destructive. Like it's a self-condemnation.
Yeah.
Kamakami.
Yeah. One who desires to fulfill desires. Kamakami.
It's easy to remember. Kamakami.
Kamakami and kamikaze. It's destructive path to just go on and on trying to fulfill desires.
Yeah.
That's why I think association is so important with people who want to like talk about something transcendental than desires, or whether they're lamenting
Or lack of it.
hankering, or lack of desire, or lack of satisfaction from
It's funny, I heard that analogy of the ocean being still, even filled, but the way you explain it, like I understood it deeper. And I never like, sometimes we hear analogy, I don't take time to stop and think, what's that analogy about? And then today you allowed, by your class, it allowed me to really stop and think about it and what it means. And then, physically, you say, oh, so the science can explain it. But that's true. Like the ocean stay in Jacksonville and St. Augustine, even so there is all those rivers that constantly flow in them, and the rain, the river, so much is flowing into the ocean, and it stays in the same place. The beach is always at the same place. That's quite amazing. And then after you said about, and then, the desire are always coming. And then, the mind can stay still, and whether the ocean can stay still, regardless what's the feeling of the river of desire. Just, sometimes I hear things like, oh, wow, I never had heard it so deeply. So I wanted to thank you for that. I had new realization about that analogy and deeper understanding of it.
Yeah. Well, it's the first time I ever thought about it. I don't remember reading it. I only read the Bhagavad Gita once. But so you got to go a little deeper with this verse and purport and verse, really.
Definitely. Thank you.
You're very well. Devin, are you there? Can you share anything, or have you been busy with something else possibly?
Yeah, I've been I'm here, and I appreciate class, especially like the uncomfortable kind of laughter, giggling. I don't know. I'm judging it. I'm calling it kind of like a, just little haha, like haha. I discovered that, and like haha, I read that like we're always suffering when we're having desires, but ending all desires is impossible. So I guess that's it. And then you're like, but then there's more. And I don't know, it's just the playful nature of your class. And I imagine some of it's coming from your recent improv experiences, like that you accessed your playfulness. But it really worked. It really worked, in my opinion. It was, for me, it worked in this class. That I'll listen to this class again because, yeah, I am working outside and doing things, and just, it'll take me some time to integrate, and I'll want to go back. And this is one class I know I'll listen to again and take it in more, when I'm not distracted. So I can't be so specific, I'm not like holding, oh yeah, specific comments or appreciations really, but the whole energy of your class was uplifting for me and reassuring and positive, and I guess met me where I'm at and made me feel it's okay where I'm at. And yeah, I'm just reconnecting with Krishna consciousness. That's the work, and that's the goal. And yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
I love that you tapped into the class, and if you had something else to do, you're like, well, I still just want to pick up something. I want to pick up the energy. And
Okay.
Come.
Yeah,
thank
look,
you.
Damayanti and Mother Malini there.
Hi.
Hello, Kirtan. Hi, Krishna. You're gardening with Dad?
Yeah, we're moving the shed. We're moving a big shed,
Oh, wow.
and he's got scissors. That's scary.
Oh, cool.
Is that scary?
No.
Or he's gonna show me something. Thank you, Damayanti. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So
I think
anything else?
I want to team up with Bhakta Devan that I think, sometime when we say, when we want to speak about the courses, we say, be the course. And so for you were speaking about happiness in Krishna consciousness, and you were being that,
In the
you were
class.
being happy doing devotional service, which is speaking class on Bhagavad Gita is devotional service. So it's like you were manifesting being happy in Krishna consciousness,
Oh,
like being it. Yeah. Not simply speaking about it.
before the class, I thought, well, I had different feelings like, oh no, time's running out with preparing. But then I did all my preparation and walked away from it, and I came in and I was like, okay, let's talk about being happy. Like, kind of like, I don't know where everybody's going to be at. Like, I don't know where everyone is, but I'm going to bring that energy of like, let's be happy. Like, let's be happy. Like, let me be happy. Like, let and I think, chant and be happy. I think Krishna wants us to be happy, simple and happy and satisfied. Like, let's be happy. Like, why do we need to keep suffering? Go back down under. Oh, like, it's just like,
Enjoy it.
we enjoy it.
Prabhupada enjoying suffering in the Bhagavad Gita in one of his purports.
Right. We're enjoying stuff like, oh, I'm the star actor in this drama. Like, oh, look at me. I've got one more complaint. And, a new thing happened. A new desire popped up and I'm not having it. It's like, it could just go on. And like, I want to do, I did read somewhere about Sankirtan. I think it was in I don't know, something about happiness in serving Krishna, and Sankirtan being like just this, this like supreme service, Sankirtan. Oh, and there's somewhere about like thinking about doing good for others. I read that today. Not going to search for it, but there's like, if you're decreasing sense gratification, you can think about service just to others. Like, instead of serving yourself, serving, your own gratification. Like, it's just really touching to me. Like, I really do want that kind of life, that I'm sort of setting myself aside more and more, and I can serve others. And there's many ways, and there's many services available. And then one that I don't want to forget from my soul, where it's at, or from my vehicle, whatever, is Sankirtan. It's just, it just works for me. It brings me just way out of my character and the stories I was telling and the dramas. And like, I go to Sankirtan, I'm like, whoa, there's like, it brings me to that feeling of possibility again, which is like this kind of new thing I'm contemplating, is like being in a place of possibility. I think it's a spirit of discovery, like what's possible? Like, when can we go to the Sankirtan again? And like, I wonder what will happen to the person I met. And like, I wonder if they'll contact me, or they'll come to the program, or like, just being in that like, curious place. And Sankirtan does a lot for me with happiness. So, and it rained out totally. It rained out last Sunday. We drove all the way there. We had a harmonium and books and everything. Garuda and I. And I asked him when we could put it on the calendar again. He's like, don't ask. Not because he doesn't want to go. It's just we have a lot of other services. But I think I need to squeeze in going. So I might invite some friends or just go by myself. I still haven't gone by myself ever, but I think I need to go out and just do some singing and approach one person with a book, Another one, he's nodding a huge yes. So that's all. Thank you for being with me, and we can end there our meeting. Nice to connect with you both, and on Anasuya, I'm not sure if you were here for a little bit. I'm happy.
Thank you for happiness in Krishna consciousness. Thank you. I'm going to keep that with me, and endeavor to be happy and satisfied and peaceful in Krishna consciousness.
That sounds great. I'll forget by the time you see me again, but maybe not.
We can remind each other.
It was fun. It was fun to talk tonight. Well, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Thanks.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Bol.
Hare Bol.